Okay, so I think we can get started with our webinar today. My name's Elizabeth Pendergrass, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, How to Estimate Reliability for On-Time Software Development. Before we get started, I'd just like to make you aware of a few technical items. All of you who are currently listening to the presentation are on mute. So to ask a question at any point during the presentation, just use the Q&A dialog box on the right-hand side of the WebEx screen. Keith will field as many of these questions as he has time for at the end of the presentation. If he does not have time to answer your question, don't worry. I'll save any questions that we don't get to and refer them to Keith so he can get back to you. So I will go ahead and introduce our presenter for today. Keith Ciocco has more than 30 years of experience working in sales and customer service, with 25 of those years spent at QSM. As Vice President, his primary responsibilities include supporting QSM clients with their estimation and measurement goals, managing business development, and existing client relations. He has developed and directed the implementation of the sales and customer retention process within QSM and has played a leading role in communicating the value of the QSM tools and services to professionals in the software development, engineering, and IT industries. So without further ado, I'll let Keith get started.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. And thanks everyone for being here today. My plan is to take you through a brief slide presentation and a quick background on QSM. And then I plan to show some examples of how we can leverage reliability estimating early in the planning process. What we usually find is software managers will often leave the reliability estimate part out of their early decisions. And when this happens, the lack of reliability data can cause their cost and schedule targets to be off. So today I'll be showing some examples of how we can use the QSM tools to estimate and track reliability along with the cost and schedule part of the picture. So let's go ahead and get started. Basic background on QSM, 43 years in business. We are the developers of the Slim suite of tools. We're a leading product and services company and research provider, and we focus on estimating, tracking, and benchmarking, software development, IT development, software delivery types of programs. We focus a lot on helping our clients plan and negotiate the project and portfolio development work. QSM Industry Database, probably it's one of the cornerstones of our business. Over 43 years of research and over 13,000 projects. The research gives us a good understanding of the fundamental relationships that's going on in software development. And you can actually see here, this is actually a snapshot from the QSM Industry Database. And you can see we're looking at a relationship here. We're actually looking at duration versus size. And you can see as the projects get bigger, they tend to take longer, right? Pretty simple relationship there. Each one of these green squares is a completed project within the database. So you can kind of see the relationship there and the trend line and all the different data points pulled together. So providing this information gives us the latest information on cost and schedule and quality and reliability. This is actually the software production equation, also known as the Putnam model. Larry Putnam Sr. actually developed these models initially, and what we're really doing here is we're linking the amount of value or functionality delivered to the time and the effort that it takes to deliver that functionality. And in addition to that, we're linking the level of productivity that it takes to deliver that work. And you're going to see during the webinar, the productivity that I mentioned here is also referred to as the productivity index. And you're going to see that that's going to come up quite a bit in the as we go through this today. Now, the size, time, effort, and productivity actually directly affect reliability. And we know that from analyzing historical data. And you can see here another snapshot from the QSM Industry Database You can see this relationship is defects versus size. And you can see, again, there's kind of a slight slope in the data. And on the horizontal axis there, you see size, and on the vertical, we see defects. And as the projects get bigger, we tend to find more defects. And that's what that view is basically telling us. So it's all connected, size, time, effort, productivity, directly connected to reliability. The Rayleigh defect model pulls it all together, or at least it's one of the ways we pull it all together. Larry Putnam Sr. discovered that the Rayleigh curve is a good predictor of software defects. And you can see here from this quote from Larry and from Larry and Ware Myers from one of Larry's books. He says we can start with the thought that errors are proportional to the work done. The work done is proportional to the effort put in, and the effort put in follows a Rayleigh curve. And you can see here on my right, I've got 3 Rayleigh curves. You can see the relationship here. We've got defects and time. And you can see the red curve there, the highest on the chart. You can see this is this particular client is finding more defects at a higher rate than the other clients. So each one of these curves represents a different set of historical data. And we're going to see some examples of this today later during the webinar. This is the Rayleigh model leveraged in Slim Estimate. Okay, I took this right out of Slim Estimate. You can see here the Rayleigh shape, and you can see we're measuring defects within the estimating tool. You can see the gradual finding of defects and then tapering off as we get to delivery. Months on the bottom here, 11 months. And you can see we're breaking it out into different levels of severity, critical, serious, moderate, tolerable, and cosmetic. So this particular view is showing an estimate of defect rate and shows how we're leveraging the Rayleigh defect model. Benefits to estimating reliability. Okay, there are a lot of them, but I picked my top 3 right here. Number 1, it increases the chance of delivering a high quality product. Number 2, it increases the chance of meeting our cost, staff, schedule, and quality targets, right? Because, what good does it do to finish on time if we're not delivering a quality product, right? So it's all connected. And number 3, it improves the communication and trust and also the negotiating capability that we have with stakeholders and clients. So 3 kind of high-level benefits there that we're going to talk about today. But before we get started, I was hoping to do a polling question. Want to see if we can get everybody involved here and get some feedback. So you're going to see a dialog box pop up on your screen here in a second. And the question is, how do you currently estimate reliability? And we've got 5 options for answers. You can pick as many as you'd like, and we'll give you approximately a minute to answer. So thanks for participating if you can. Appreciate it. We'll wait about a minute here. About 30 seconds left. Remember, you can pick as many answers as you'd like, whichever applied to you. Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the results. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, interesting. I'm not sure if everybody can see the results, so I'll just go ahead and read them. So how do you currently estimate reliability? Most of you voted on experience-based, 37%. 30% of you voted for model-based estimation. 7% gut feel, 11% detailed spreadsheets, and 7% none of the above. Interesting. That experience-based won the day as the most popular answer. And, let's talk about that a bit. We find that a lot of project managers struggle with reliability estimating early in the planning process, like I had mentioned. A lot of times they don't factor in the reliability part of the equation with their cost and schedule plans. So one of the things we recommend, as you can see from this webinar, is to do a model-based reliability estimate. And this can be done in addition to the experience-based or the spreadsheet-based or whatever. Looks like most people voted for experience-based, but pretty close second was model-based. The reason why we recommend the model-based part in addition is because it can provide an objective view, right, and a sanity check with historical data. The other thing we recommend is to do the reliability estimates alongside the cost and schedule, since the reliability estimate can validate or sanity check what you might be seeing with the cost and schedule numbers. Or if someone gives you a cost estimate that's unrealistic, the reliability estimate might show that the cost estimate is not feasible, right? It can give you a red flag early so you can make a better decision. So whether you're dealing with feasible expectations or not, these types of analysis views that we're going to show today can help provide a more data-driven approach or a more data-driven negotiating type of ability. So experience-based is great, but if we can, we'd like to add in the models and the historical data as part of the equation. So yeah, really good insight from the poll. Thank you for participating, and we're going to definitely continue to talk more about these types of things as we move through the webinar here. But before we do that, I just want to give a quick overview of the SLIM suite of tools, because this is where I'm going to be pulling the examples from these tools today. So quick overview, SLIM Estimate is kind of the flagship product, and SLIM, again, is an acronym for Software Lifecycle Management, also known as the Putnam Models. SLIM Estimate is used to figure out, what should this release or project or delivery cost, how long should it take, and what's the quality going to be like, right? Estimating all the above. SLIM Data Manager is a repository tool for your historical data, right? So we have a place to capture and store all the history from projects that have been completed. Master Plan is used to estimate at the portfolio level versus SLIM Estimate at the release level, right? So Master Plan is going to help us figure out, how much are we going to spend next year, right? And what's the quality going to be like next year, things like that. Or if I just have a group of projects and I need to know the big picture. SLIM Control is for tracking and oversight and basically re-estimating as things change. SLIM Metrics is for post-project analysis, right? You're doing process improvement. You want to look at the return on investment of all your efforts. You want to see where your strengths are, where the bottlenecks might be, where can we improve? So post-project analysis. All of those tools run in Windows, and they can be installed to your desktop, or if you have a lot of users, to your server. And in addition to that, we offer SLIM Collaborate, which is our cloud-based version, our cloud-based estimation tool and metrics tool. What we're going to be focused the most on today to show these examples of reliability estimating are going to be SLIM Estimate, Data Manager, and SLIM Control. Okay. But before we do that, I just wanted to pause for questions if anybody had any, kind of at a high level, before we get more detailed. So I'll give a couple minutes here for questions if there are any.
So just to remind you, if you want to ask a question, you can just type it in the Q&A dialog box on the right-hand side. So if there's any questions, you can just put them in there. I did have one so far, and that was, can these tools be used for proposal work? Is there a way to track the development on existing contracts?
Yes, absolutely. One of the sweet spots to these tools is actually helping with those very early decisions. So a lot of our clients use it for proposal work. And some of them don't have any historical data because, right, they're trying to win new business. Maybe they don't have all the experience that they're hoping for on the contract that they're working towards. And so, yes, so SLIM is actually a top-down estimating approach designed for those situations where we don't have a lot of information. So the tools can actually be used even before detailed planning takes place, right? So before you figure out how many hours each person's going to work, and before you might try to tally that up in a spreadsheet type of scenario, we would use SLIM to figure out what's the big picture. Is this going to be 6 months or 8 months? Do we need 10 people or 12 people, right? So absolutely, proposal work is a big focus for us. I'll show some examples of that today as well.
And we did have a question. Are you able to use your own historical data when estimating, or are you only using the industry data?
Great question. You can use both, and I'll show examples of that today as well. So the SLIM Data Manager provides that place that you can capture the history, your own historical data, and then you'll see the industry database in the SLIM tools in the form of trend lines and statistical averages and things like that. So both would be the short answer.
So I think that's all the questions we have so far, but if any other ones come up, you can use the dialog box to plug those in.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'm going to go ahead and jump in to show some examples here. Okay, so the question is, how do we do really good reliability estimating? The best way to start would be to start capturing some historical data, right? And it's okay if you don't have any, because we can lean on the industry data from QSM, but we encourage our clients as kind of a best practice to start pulling together some of your own history. And with working with us, it starts in this SLIM Data Manager. And you can see here in this example, I've opened up one completed project or delivery or release, or however you want to define it within your organization. We're looking at a software as a service project. And you can see here on the basic tab, we want to capture the sizing information, very important. And in this example, this particular project had 722 stories. But again, it's flexible. You can use whatever type of sizing measures you feel like fit within your process or your organization. So how much work was delivered, and then we also want to capture how much time and effort was spent. Remember that one slide I showed with the Putnam model, right? The software production equation, where we're linking size, time, effort, and productivity. So in this example here, we're capturing the size, time, and effort. We've even broken it out by phase, and we're calculating the productivity index, that productivity that I mentioned earlier. And in this example, it's a 22.4. Okay. Now a little bit more about the productivity index. It's really a macro measure for productivity and efficiency. Okay, it takes into account things like experience level of the people on the particular project, the maturity of the process that you're in, the complexity of the work that you're delivering, the tools and methods you might be using, things like that. Okay, but the beauty of it is it's mathematically calculated. So size, time, and effort to calculate this productivity index. Now, since we're focused on quality, the other thing we want to do is capture our quality historical data, right? So in this example here, we're capturing the total number of defects. We're actually breaking them out by severity. We want to capture what type of operational runtime environment parameters. We want to capture mean time to defect. Okay, really important. Mean time to defect is the average time that takes place between the discovery of new defects. Okay, it's a very important reliability measure, and it's really important to the estimating that we're going to be talking about today. If we can, we'd like to capture defects after delivery as well. Okay, so that's an example of how we might do that. The data manager lets us go deeper as well. We can capture information on application type and industry sector. We can capture information on sizing. A lot of times our clients don't want to be restricted to just one size measure. Maybe they don't have very detailed sizing information, so maybe they just have a requirements document. So they might use business requirements for sizing. They may use a combination of metrics. They might use business requirements along with stories. They might use story points. They might use features. So it's flexible. We want to capture the labor rates that we're using. We want to be able to have the ability to create custom metrics, and we want to be able to track how we did once the project is completed. How far off were we from the estimate? Were we 5% off? Were we 10% off? All this information is going to help us make better decisions going forward. So once we have a little bit of historical data, we can leverage that when we're doing our estimates for reliability as well as cost and schedule. Remember, it's all connected. So here in this example, we're in the estimating tool now. We're in Slim Estimate. You can see the architecture here. We've got a navigator to my left that has multiple views that have analytics that describe an estimate that I've already run. Each of these views is within a workbook, right? You see the workbooks. And then we have these views over here that kind of summarize. In this example, it's summarizing an estimate that I've already run. So the first thing we'd like to do, though, is we'd like to bring that historical data in from the data manager. So I would go to history and I'd load the historical data in. You can see the projects. Hit OK. Brings us back here, and you can see I've got scatter plots showing us, how our estimate compares to work we've done in the past. So, for example, here, this particular chart shows effort. You can see effort on the vertical, and you can see size on the horizontal. We're using implementation units as a sizing measure, but once again, it's flexible. Like this could be story points, it could be epics, it could be features, however you want to set it up. And then I can see here the estimate in blue. And then the trend line is from the QSM Industry Database. It's the industry average for the particular type of project I'm working on. Or it could be a custom trend line that I've created from my own historical data. And then these triangles that you see here are actually your projects, hypothetically, from that data manager that I've loaded in. So right off the bat, I can see if this estimate's reasonable. And in this example, it is. It's within the standard deviation. It's close to the industry trends. It's right in the thick of the projects we've completed in the past. And of course, that's connected to reliability. I have a defect scatter plot here. Again, this blue data point is actually my defect estimate. Actually, we're in this example, we're looking at system integration to delivery, number of defects total. And you can see my trend line, industry average or custom trend. And then these triangles, again, are projects that I've completed. And again, I can see if the reliability estimate is in line with the schedule, cost, and effort estimate. I've got a little summary here. I've got 11 months. I've got 27,000 person hours of effort and a price tag at $2.7 million with about 26 people and a mean time to defect of 11 days, right? Remember, mean time to defect would be that the average time that takes place between the discovery of new defects, okay? So the bigger this number, the better, right? We want more time to elapse between defects. And then here up top, I've got the staffing profile showing me, it's actually a Rayleigh curve representing how I'm allocating my resources to the project. So we use the curves to represent staffing, cost, effort, and reliability. And these are flexible, by the way. We can create other resource profiles. For example, if I'm doing an agile scrum, this could be more of a box shape, right? So we're flexible here on how we set this up. But in this example, we're looking at 25 people to complete this project, or 26 people to complete this project in 11 months with a mean time to defect of about 11 days. Okay, so that's kind of a high-level summary of this particular output of an estimate. Let's take a step back. Let's actually show a couple examples of how we might run this estimate. And we have flexibility here. We can approach the estimate based on the information we have available. You can see here I've got multiple what we call quick estimate wizards that only require 2 or 3 bits of information to generate an estimate. I'm going to go into one example. I'm going to start here with the ROM estimate. And ROM is rough order of magnitude. And you can see here, first thing I'll want to do is I'll put in the name of the project. And this is a web application, okay, e-commerce. I'm going to put in the phases I want to include in the estimate. This is all customizable. We're rolling up to 4 high-level phases in this example, but these names can change, right? Tailor them for how you do business within your environment, your project environment. I'm going to put in the start date, which can change. And then I'm going to open up the trend lines here. I'm going to choose a trend line that represents the type of project that I want to estimate, okay? And these are all really like knowledge bases. They represent all the different types of software development application domains, software development or delivery, package implementations, right? Anything related there. So I can choose the trend line that represents most closely to the project I'm about to plan or estimate. And when I do that, what it does is it brings in the typical cost and schedule and effort numbers, right? From the QSM Industry Database, just like I had explained on that slide, that particular slide I talked about earlier when I was talking QSM Database. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a t-shirt sizing approach here. Remember, I'm assuming I don't have a lot of information on this project. So I'm going to determine whether this project is big or small. In this example, based on my experience. And in this example, I'm using the QSM Industry Database, and I'm using implementation units as a size measure. Now, this could be tuned specifically to you, right? So when you say big or small, it could be how you define big or small. But in this example, we're using SLIM right out of the box, and so we're going to use the QSM database. Then the next thing I would do is I would choose a productivity index. I'm going to pick the PI either from the QSM industry data, or I'm going to use my own historical data. The question that was asked earlier, can we use, do you have to pick one or the other? You can use both, and I can choose and look at them side by side if I'd like to. So I can pick the PI from my own data, or I can use the industry averages. That's one example. If I have more detailed information, I might approach the estimate here in our solution assumptions screen. Now, in this example here, again, I'm going to put in a start date, and then I'm going to tell SLIM how I'm going to allocate my resources. And you can see that Rayleigh model again, but I have other options. I can tune this based on how I define the work or how I define my resource allocation. And you can see here that I've got the phases that I had spoken about earlier. Then how do I allocate the resources to the project? Start date. If I move to my right here, you can see that this particular client, talking defect estimating here, defect tuning, this particular client discovers defects at a 12% higher rate than the industry average. So if this said 100%, we would be using the QSM model, but this particular client is discovering defects at a higher rate. So if you remember that slide I showed where the 3 Rayleigh curves and the red curve at the top, that particular client was discovering defects at a higher rate than the other two. That's what we're doing here. We're tuning the model up a little bit based on this particular client's historical data. Historical data at my fingertips. Okay, so next thing I would do is I would go ahead and enter in how much work or scope or functionality needs to be delivered. Here it's 84,000 implementation units, but I can go deeper. Right? I can go into more detail. I can say, okay, well, how many screens or how many reports or how many interfaces? I can use function points. I could use use cases. I could use modules. Here's an example. I can do a ROM sizing approach, right? So it's flexible. However, I think in terms of the work I have to deliver or the value I have to deliver to the client. I'm going to put in that productivity index. I'm going to get it from my historical data, or I'm going to use the industry data. And I have the ability to manage that early uncertainty, right? When we're doing those early plans for proposals, for example, a lot of times we really, we're guessing or we're using gut feel. We're trying to take the gut feel, we're trying to make it more objective, right? So I can use a range approach here and give myself some buffer with the inputs that I'm putting in here, right? So I can use the uncertainty ranges here to help give myself a little bit of room for error if I need to. I'm going to put in a labor rate, an average labor rate for the overall program, or there's another area in the tool where I can break everything out by role by month, right? Different labor rates by different roles or different countries or whatever I need to reflect within my project environment. And then I'm going to make a decision. I can run an estimate based on industry. I can run an estimate based on a specific parameter, like I've got a certain quality goal I need to achieve, or I have a certain schedule I need to hit. I might have multiple parameters that I need to deal with. I've got to get done in 11 months with a $2.7 million budget with 25 people, and the software needs to run 7 days without discovering a critical defect. Now, it could be a critical defect. It could be overall defects, however you want to set this up. When I hit OK, it runs the estimate for me and brings me back to this analysis area where I can use these analytics to negotiate with the stakeholders, right? If someone's pushing back on what I'm telling them, I can say, look, here's the data. The data shows what I'm talking about. So again, we have the reliability information. Here's my estimate compared to the industry trends, compared to my own history. Just like I have for effort and I have for schedule and I have for cost. I've got a summary of the estimate here. I've got a staffing profile that shows me how many people and when they're going to come on and off the project. And then I probably need to make some decisions. Maybe 11 months is not good enough, right? Maybe this 11 days mean time to defect is not good enough. Maybe the budget not comfortable with it. So what I might do is look at some trade-offs and say, okay, great. Well, what if we add people to this? What if I go from 26 to or 27 to 37 people? How will that impact the decision? And a lot of managers do this. They think, okay, we're going to add people and this is going to save everything. But and this is actually one of the ways these tools can help save you some money, right? It might show you that, hey, not a great idea to add 10 people. It's, you're only going to save 2 weeks and it's going to cost you a lot more money. I hit okay, and that's what happens because I knew what was coming in this example. It's going to save me a couple weeks. It's going to throw the cost way up with the bigger team. My reliability went down. It went from 11 days to 8 days mean time to defect, right? That's a problem. Something I want to discuss, something I want to save into a solution log so I can talk about it. I might call this my bigger team size. Right now, another trade-off might be, or people are asking me questions. They're saying, what's it going to cost to add in that extra backlog, right? I've got all this other work that I'm planning. How much longer will it take, and how much more will it cost? So we can see that very quickly. I say, okay, I add that extra work that needs to be done, and then within a couple seconds, I generate a whole new estimate. With the bigger team and the more work, you can see the impact of that, how much longer it's going to take, how many more months. You can see it graphically. You can see it here in the chart, and how much more it's going to cost and how it's going to affect reliability. My reliability went down again a little bit, mean time to defect, right? That could be a problem, but we won't know until we talk about it. We make some decisions. Maybe the customer can let it slip a couple weeks. Maybe that's okay, and it saves them a lot of money, and it gives them a higher quality product at delivery. So we look at these trade-offs and we look at the risk, right? So I've got a great chance of getting done within 18 months, 99%. Customers pushing me to 12 to 14, not such a good idea. See on the horizontal axis here, assurance level, right? You can see on the vertical the duration in months. That 20 to 30% chance of getting done in 14 months, not good. Same with budget, looking good. $10 million, but they're trying to squeeze this down to the $4 to $5 million range, not looking good. And how are we looking on reliability? Remember, it's all connected. Got about a 95% chance of getting this thing 2.5 day mean time to defect, or almost 3 days mean time to defect. That's pretty good, depending on what your expectations were. And then let's go a little deeper. We've got some additional analytics here. I've got cumulative defects. How much are we planning to see? Defects remaining, broken out by severity. I've got critical, moderate, cosmetic. I've got serious, tolerable, and my totals. You can see the defect estimates here have us finishing in that same 13-month time frame, right? So it's consistent. You might run into a situation where it's not. Someone's telling you, hey, we can get this done for this kind of money, and it might look okay, but then or within the schedule, but then we see the defect estimate and the defects are blowing up, right? Red flag. Whoever gave you that cost estimate, probably not reliable. Probably not a reliable estimate. And then we always want to compare our reliability estimates to the industry trends. This one's looking pretty good. It's consistent with the industry. It's within the standard deviation. Right? Now, these tools estimate at the release level, right? Portfolio level. They'll also break the estimate out in detail for you. So I can see the cost breakout, right? Cost by role by month. You can see color coded here. You can see how much we're going to spend in QA. You can see how much we're going to spend in testing, right? I've got the charts here to prove it. I can toggle to a report. All this information can go out into a spreadsheet if needed. You can see the columns here, how much money I'm going to spend in software QA each month. I've also got the cumulative cost numbers. What's the total at delivery? All goes out to a report or chart, right? So it's flexible. I can look at those analytics and I can use them and I can use them all together. I can use the reliability estimate alongside the cost and the schedule. Now, once we are comfortable on our early estimates and our early decisions, we can track those estimates using Slim Control, right? So you remember the Slim Suite wheel that I showed? We had Slim Control was that tracking piece. And that's really important because sometimes things change, right? On a project or on a release or on the next release, customer comes back and says they want something different, or maybe the expectations weren't good on the first, maybe we didn't achieve the plan that we thought we would, that type of thing. Or maybe we're working with a vendor. This could be used, by the way, internal development. Also, if I'm managing vendors, right? Vendors come in, different pricing, different schedules. I can use the estimating tool to figure out which vendor bid is most realistic. I can use this Slim Control tool to track the vendor or track my internal development to make sure we stay according to plan. So here we're looking at Slim Control. We're looking at a dashboard. Same type of architecture as we saw in Slim Estimate. I've got all these nice analytics here to my left. I could build these reports, set them up however I'd like. I've got these charts that are going to describe the analysis. First thing I'm going to want to do though is I'm going to want to put in my actuals, either once a month or once a week or whatever my comfort zone is. It might be once every 2 weeks. Excuse me. The important thing is we don't need all the detailed information here. We don't need to be very granular. Because a lot of times we don't have that level of detail reliably, right? So just want the totals once a month. Total people, total features delivered, total defects found. And you can see here I've got it broken out by severity. Defects fixed, broken out by severity, and then some custom metrics I wanted to track. We've got design components. So I've got staffing. Now, if I wanted to, I could pick 2 or 3 of these, right? I don't have to track as many things as you see here as well. But in this example, I've got multiple actuals, multiple types of actuals. When I hit OK, it updates these charts and shows me how my actuals compare to my plan. So here I've got the blue plan on my Gantt chart for schedule. The red is where the team is actually right now in time, right? If I look to my right, I've got features. Let's blow that one up. I've got the thin blue line was my plan from Slim Estimate, or it could have been a plan from some other tool, like if you're doing experience-based, like the poll. If you're doing a spreadsheet, like we had in the poll, something like that, you can certainly put those numbers in here, and then you can track it. Say, wow, okay, here was my initial plan. Much easier, of course, if you import the Slim Estimate plan. We like that, of course. Slim Estimate plan in blue, actuals once a month are in red here, and you can see the yellow lights on. It's telling us we're in trouble. We're falling off the plan, either our internal team or the vendor that we're managing. So that's a red flag, right? And defects, red flag. Remember, it's all connected. We're finishing late here. We're not delivering at the same rate as we had planned, and we're actually finding a lot more defects than we had planned. You can see the red light, right? Much higher than we had planned. That's a problem. Go in a little more detail here. We can break it out by severity, right? All consistent. I've got moderate, serious, critical, and the totals, all higher than we had hoped. I've got the totals here in this particular view. I've got fixed, and I've got an open backlog, right? So we can go in a little more detail. And what it's telling us is the defect closure is not keeping up with discovery rates. That's a problem. It's a problem we want to see early so we can make some decisions. And, if we take a closer look, we had planned on delivering 508 features. We've only actually delivered 394. We had planned on spending $2 million. We've actually already overspent. We've already spent almost $2.2 million. That's a problem. So what Slim Control is doing is it's taken the actual functionality or work delivered, and it's taken the actual duration elapsed, and it's taken the actual effort spent, and it's recalculating that productivity index. And you can see that we're not achieving the level of productivity that we had planned. Or the vendor that we're managing promised us a cost and schedule, whether they knew what a PI was or not, right? If they didn't know this particular measure, we can see what their productivity promised was, and we can see what the productivity that's actually happening, actually occurring. This particular scenario, they're not working to the level that they had promised. So that's a problem. That's why we're late. I'm going to run the forecast. I want to show you, I'd already run the forecast and generated those numbers, but I want to show you what's actually happening. It's actually curve fitting to the actuals and running a new projection, right? It's taking the information that we're putting in and curve fitting and then running a new estimate, right? And so now this particular estimate, you can see the green compares to the plan in blue, right? You can see that we're late. So this is consistent with what we were looking at here with the actuals, right? So plan in green, the new estimates in green, plans in blue. You can shows we're going to be late. It shows that we're delivering features a few months late. In this example, it shows the staffing's okay and the cost is okay. Quality, not so good, right? Quality, we're still seeing defects long after we had planned. That's a problem, right? So, you know, what are we going to do about it, right? So what we might do is look at some trade-offs. We'll go to the control button here and we'll say, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? What if we add people? Go for 27. What if we added 10 people? How would that impact everything? When I hit apply, it gives us a new estimate with a bigger team. And it shows us kind of what I thought was going to happen, what I knew was going to happen. We're going to save a couple of weeks. It's going to throw the cost way up, right? So maybe the customer can live without those features till the next release. Maybe it gives us a way to negotiate and say, look, maybe they're okay with 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, if they can save some money. That's the estimate. When I hit OK, it shows up in the charts. So we can actually show the stakeholders or the customer and say, wow, it shows that we're going to be late, shows the staffing way high, shows the cost up, shows the features being delivered late, shows the quality, right? We added people. Right? Usually when that happens, we see more defects. So it's still not in line. Another trade-off might be, what if we reduce the functionality, right? Maybe the customer can live without those features till the next release. And again, what's going to happen is it's going to curve fit to the actuals and run a new estimate. We call that adaptive forecasting, right? Estimating throughout the project. And you can see here, we reduce the functionality, much better on schedule. You can see where we tie it up early. Same with the integration builds. Staffing costs look good, and quality looks good. Quality is now in line with the plan because we made some good decisions related to functionality and scope and people, all connected, right? Now, once the project is completed, all of that information can go back into that data manager where we started, right? Where we capture how much work was delivered, how much time and effort was spent, so we can calculate that productivity index for the next time. We can capture all of our reliability estimation for the next time, so that we can use it when we're making decisions on early decisions and also ongoing throughout the project when the project's in flight. We can use this information to validate and negotiate with the client. So in summary, you know, being able to leverage the reliability estimating along with our usual cost and schedule focus can help us increase our chances of finishing on time. And at the same time, it can help us deliver a higher quality product. And as we saw in this webinar, all of the metrics and the targets that we talked about are related and they directly affect one another. So the reliability status can actually be a good indicator of whether the project will finish on time and also within budget. I hope this presentation was helpful. Hopefully it gave you some additional ways to look at estimation. Thanks again for joining us, and I will hand it back over to Elizabeth for a question and answer session.
Yes, and we already have a couple questions, and once again, you can use the Q&A dialog box to add some more. And here's Keith's contact information if you want to follow up with him after the presentation. So far, one of the questions we have is there a parameterization of SLIM tools for IFPUG function points so that you may calculate quality of software based on that or productivity?
If I understand the question correctly, the answer is yes. So we have a function point sizing capability that's consistent with IFPUG, where you can actually enter in the number of function points and use that information to figure out, how long will the project take, how much will it cost, and what will the quality be like as well. So yeah, it's all connected. So absolutely, definitely can use function points as a sizing measure in SLIM.
How is the assurance level percentage calculated?
The assurance level percentage is calculated based on the reliability models based on historical data. At the high level, at the release level, right, we're basically taking size, time, and effort, and we're using that information. We're using defect historical data to calculate the defect estimate. And then it can be broken down at a lower level on a percentage basis. So what I didn't show was much detail at the, where you're creating the template. And there's an area in the SLIM tool where you can break out the percentages, what's typically spent, or, at the role level, QA and testing and project management and documentation. Templates are shipped with SLIM that have all these percentage breakouts, and you can tune them based on how you do business, right? How your process works. But the high level estimate will be calculated from the SLIM models for reliability, cost, and effort. And then it'll be broken out on a percentage basis based on the template, how the percentages are set up, based on your historical data or based on your experience.
We use Microsoft Azure DevOps work items, such as features, user stories, etc. Can that data be imported into SLIM?
Absolutely. So now the estimating tool, SLIM is a suite. So let me hit that in two areas. SLIM estimate is kind of a front end, high level. You only are putting in 2 or 3 bits of information to generate an estimate, right? Early on, there is a sizing template that you can import data into from a spreadsheet, or SLIM also has a fairly robust API if you want to write to it. So yes, you can bring in sizing information from other tools. And then our SLIM control for tracking also has an API that you can bring in if you're tracking that sizing information from Azure or some other type of DevOps, scenario. So yes, you can put the information in manually, you can bring it in through a spreadsheet, or you can use the API to bring it in from other types of tools.
Can your tools break out the cost of the testing phase separately?
Yes, absolutely. So SLIM can be broken out into phases. That resource model that I showed early on, that was kind of an aggregate view, but it can be broken out at the phase level, and then you can actually see just the cost for the test phase. In addition to that, you can break out the estimates at a effort by role by month level as well. So if you wanted to see how much you're going to be spending on QA and testing, the tools will do that as well on a percentage basis.
Can you estimate the cost of QA in addition to other roles on the development team?
Yes, that kind of dovetails with the other question. So there's an area in the tool. I showed a chart that showed the breakout of everything, but there's actually an area in the tool where you can set up your project environment, where you can break out the resources by different labor rates and also by different percentages. So yes, it'll break out the overall cost, and then it'll break it out by role by month. So the QA cost can be broken out separately.
Are you referring to the quality and defects related to the cost estimate and schedule, or to the actual software product being developed? if it's the product, what's your basis for the quality?
Okay, that's a long one. Can you read that one more time?
Yeah. Are you referring to the quality and defects related to the cost estimate and schedule, or to the actual software product being developed?
Both.
Okay. Being developed. If it's the product, what's your basis for the quality?
Well, it's both. We're estimating the cost and the reliability of the delivery and development of the software product. So we're estimating how reliable is it going to be at delivery, and then also months after delivery. And the basis is historical data, either yours, or if you don't have any of that, you can use the industry data. If you use the industry data, then you can leverage the models that are built into SLIM to manage the uncertainty, right? So you could do like a very early out-of-the-box estimate, which would be your 50% assurance solution, where the schedule, budget, and quality, you have a 50% chance of achieving. If you have more information later, you can run the estimate again and refine it. But if you don't, you can run a contingency plan right up front and say, give me the schedule and the budget that I've got a 90% chance of achieving, and it'll rerun the whole estimate for you, and it'll show the impact to quality and cost and schedule.
And this kind of tails into what you were just talking about, but does the QSM Industry Database include reliability data? But also, how do you get that data?
So yes, the QSM Industry Database has reliability data, tons of it. Also cost, schedule, effort, right? The way we get the data is from the work that we do with clients by permission. So the clients we work with will give us permission to use their information in our analysis in the database. But there's no obligation to do that if you're a customer. But we work with the clients pretty closely, and some of them like to be part of that analysis. They want to see themselves reflected in the trend lines. They might have assigned non-disclosures, and so yeah. So one of the nice things about the QSM database is it's not like, we don't just put a link on our website and say, enter your data, right? We go through a very strict validation process. We have relationships with these clients, and we make sure the data is consistent, make sure we have it completely before we use it in the database. And it's like I said, it's by permission only. We wouldn't use it without asking and without you wanting to be part of it.
Does the estimating tool allow you to customize the defect categories?
Yes, absolutely. I keep mentioning that detailed area that I didn't show. There's an area in there where you can actually customize and specify how you want to break out the severity levels, whether it's cosmetic, serious, moderate. So yeah, there's an area in the tool where you can do that. And then it shows up in the charts when you run the estimate, and it'll break it out at those levels. I think I did show a couple of charts that actually showed the output where you saw the moderate versus, at least in the tracking tool, you saw the tracking moderate, serious, critical versus the plan.
Do you integrate with other tools out of the box, such as Plan View?
We do integrate with other tools out of the box. We don't have a push button that says Plan View, but we have a nice API that you can write to bring information. And we also have a strong integration to Excel, Microsoft Project, and other tools. Plan View, we would use the API to integrate.
Does it use traditional waterfall or agile methodology?
Configured by you, how you'd like to set it up. It fully supports both and everything in between. Usually when we talk to folks, they're usually companies that spend a lot of money in software, and they have some have different groups doing it different ways. They have a waterfall group doing it more traditionally, and they have agile groups, and some are kind of in between. So you can set it up for all of the above. It fully supports agile and waterfall and hybrid methods.
In a ROM, rough order of magnitude, do you project resource demands across all phases?
Yes. So that's one of the nice, we can actually, a lot of people use our tools to make sure, to see if they have the capacity to fulfill the demand, both at the release level and at the portfolio level. So yeah, the answer is absolutely support that. And I didn't get to show master plan today. That's more of the portfolio tool where that comes into play quite a bit. By the way, if also happy to answer questions after this as well. If anybody would like to schedule a demo, or if they wanted to schedule a call and they want to talk in more detail about any of this, absolutely feel free to reach out. Happy to set up a time with you.
How often do you enter the defect actuals into the tracking tool when you're tracking the project?
In the example I showed today, it was once a month, but it's flexible. Most people put their information in once a week or once a month or every 2 weeks, as long as it's consistent. But the nice thing about Slim Control is we're kind of looking at the big picture. So we don't need all of the granular details. We put in the high level totals once a month or once a week. So yeah, it's flexible, but it's not the type of tool where you're putting in hours every day, that type of thing. It's an adaptive forecasting, project oversight, estimation tool. Yeah.
Is there a deck you can share with some of the screenshots around reforecasting?
Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to reach out after this, I'd happy to get on a call with you, and you could give me your information. We could email it to you, and we can walk you through a deck. We have multiple decks here I could take you through. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions, so feel free to shoot them this way. So far, I just have one more, and that's just, can these tools support cloud migrations?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, today we focus kind of on software development, but it's all connected, right? So any really type of development process, right, or design or development process, cloud migrations is hugely popular with us right now. And so what it really comes down to is how you define the work, right? So there's an area in the Slim tools where it's the sizing area where you would be able to define, the exact type of delivery or migration you're working on, and we would set that up for you. We'd show you how to set it up. So cloud migrations, microservices, IT development, software delivery, software configuration, implementation type of work. All of that is fully supported using our tools. Also, if anybody's interested, we have lots of free resources on our website at qsm.com. There's a whole resources section, and you can see playbacks to other webinars. You can see free articles and papers that we've written, that QSM consultants and experts have written on estimating and metrics, and a lot of it covers all the different types of development methods. A lot of big section on Agile, that type of thing as well.
Could you please tell us more about PI and MBI as the system reforecasts projections?
Absolutely, yeah. So the productivity index is the PI, and it's a measure of productivity and efficiency. The higher the measure, the better, right? And it breaks out by different application domains. For example, business applications tend to have higher PIs than, say, real-time and command and control, because the real-time and command and control world tends to be more complex. So those PIs are going to tend to be lower than, say, someone's productivity index that's building an e-commerce application or something like that. So the PI will vary based on complexity. And so you might have different PIs within your organization. The engineering group might have lower PIs than, say, the IT group, but that's totally okay because it's different. So the productivity index takes into account that overall project maturity or experience level of the team, things like that. And we use it to help figure out, when are we going to finish and how's the quality going to be and how many people are we going to need to get this project done. The MBI is the manpower buildup index, and it's measuring the rate at which you're adding people to a project. And it's also factored into the overall cost, schedule, and quality estimate. And for more details on that, happy to get on a call with you or take you through another demo and show you some examples. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone for all these great questions. We've had a really good Q&A session, and Keith, thank you for answering these all so well. So thanks for joining us today. We will have a replay of this available and slides available for download. So I'll send a email with a link to both of those probably early next week once we have that up on our website. And so feel free to, share that with any colleagues that would be interested. And yes, stay tuned for future webinars from QSM. We always appreciate having you join us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And thank you, Elizabeth, for being with me on the webinar. And thanks everybody for participating in the poll and all the great questions. Thank you.